Hey there, future celeb, and welcome to How to Be Famous with Whitney Euland. I'm your host, Whitney Euland. Now, I'm a big believer that the world would be a better place if more good-hearted people were able to make a massive impact. And if fame is calling to you, then there is an audience for you, and I'm here to show you how to find it. In this show, we are diving into the art of becoming a self-made celebrity. And no, you do not need $1 million ad budget or a team of talented agents. You already have the power inside of you, and I'm here to show you how to unlock it. I'm here to help the talented artists, creatives, and influencers tap into what I call celebrity energy so that you can become the magnet for the opportunities, fame, and success that you know that you were born for. But we're not here just for fame's sake. We're about making a positive impact, sharing your unique voice, and ultimately connecting to like-minded souls who also want to make a massive impact. So join me as we explore the stories, secrets, and strategies to help you shine brighter and leave your mark on this world. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and entertained, because this process is really about turning your dreams into a reality and finding the audience that is obsessed with you. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and together we will embark on the journey where I show you how to be famous.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of How to Be Famous with Whitney Euland. Today, we are doing a live call in my book club. If you are not listening to this live and you are not in my book club, then what are you doing? You got to get your ass into my Celebrity Energy book club. And it is a safe place for you to admit that you want to be famous. We have an amazing community in there, and we are adding in some amazing things, amazing features in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. But we are going to just be doing a Q&A today. And I had some questions. I don't know how I pull these up, but things that we're going to be talking about today, which I'm really excited about. But before I started recording, I was asking everyone where they are calling in from. And I had someone who said that they are calling in from, I don't know, this isn't like a radio show, but they're watching from Arizona. And I wanted to share that. So we just got back from our Celebrity Energy retreat, Step into Celebrity. It was in Cabo San Lucas. I had 15 incredible artists, creatives, and influencers come and join us. And I'm still part of the group thread, and it is so fun watching the celebrations blow up and seeing all the transformations. It was so fun just being there and being in everyone's energy. And it really just reminded me of how powerful that in-person transformation can really be when you get out of your space and get into a new space. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be hosting a one-on-one VIP weekend. So if you are interested in working with me in person in a VIP setting, I'm going to be hosting a retreat for one person only. This is by application only. So if you're interested, then shoot us an email, whitney@howtobefamous.org. This is going to be after the 4th of July in Arizona. We are going to be going to a wellness spa. It's going to be 2 days relaxing, doing masterminding, coaching on you, on your goals. It's going to be you and me. That's it, which is why we're doing application only. No weirdos allowed. But I just know that I just have this like intuitive feeling that there is someone who is feeling really excited and really called to do this and really ready to up-level their career. So this could be if you are going through a rebrand, you're going to you're ready to step into a new level, you're feeling blocked, you're like starting something new, or you're just like, I just want a deep dive with Whitney, then send us an email. Again, Whitney@howtobefamous.org. So for those of y'all who are new here, I actually just realized my Not Gonna Lie app is on my phone, and that's where a lot of the questions were. So I might have to hop off of TikTok. So if you are watching there, then make sure to join in our book club. You can get the Zoom link at the link in my bio. But for those of y'all who are on Zoom, you always get priority for your questions being answered. So go ahead and start dropping your questions in there. I'm going to see if I can continue this live going while I pull up the questions that were submitted ahead of time. My guess is that I cannot. So we're just going to do our best here. So one of the questions I thought this was a really great question. What advice would you give to someone who has already mastered going viral and having the resource of fame through 350K followers, but got overwhelmed with being misunderstood and thus has been off her platform for 1.5 years for mental health? I'm planning to come back. Any advice, please? Okay, this is super common, I have to say, is that we get to this level where we create a specific result that we're wanting to create, and then it becomes really overwhelming. And that's when we shut down. So typically what happens is this level of burnout comes from a couple of things. So there could be an upper limit here. And if you're new here, I'll just explain. So upper limit is our brains basically have a thermostat for how comfortable we feel safe being seen at, and the level of fame that we feel comfortable at. And so what could have happened is that you hit 350K, and that was the number that your brain perceived as being safe. And once it gets to that threshold, then it's going to want to kick on all of the self-sabotage and all of the doubt. And so a lot of the times, like I will just say for me personally, my brain's go-to for self-sabotage is depression. Okay. It is like, and I'm not saying that the depression isn't real. I'm not saying that those feelings are not valid, but that is absolutely a really sneaky way that my brain knows that if I get depressed, then I'm not going to take action. And remember, our brains don't actually want us to take action. Our brains don't actually want us to be seen, because our brains perceive being seen by the masses as being really vulnerable. So that's the first thing that I just want you to check in on, is looking at where this place is coming. And was this in a place from self-protection of wanting you to stay stuck? And if so, giving yourself compassion for that. I also see, though, often, like even if this, and we can look at, so this could have just been your energetic thermostat for that threshold of being like, let's get out of here. What I also see a lot, though, is that something traumatic happened that made you want to get off. Okay. So this could be, and let me just give a clarification. So when I say something traumatic, remember, as an artist, creative, or influencer, you actually have a higher emotional sensitivity than most people. So something that is traumatic to you, when I say traumatic, I mean something that is too much, too big, too fast, too challenging for your particular nervous system. Now, for you as an artist, as a creative or influencer, your capacity, meaning your sensitivity, is going to be a lot more, you're just going to be more sensitive than the average person. Okay. And so something that maybe your friend, maybe your parent, maybe your partner, whatever, is like, yeah, just like brush it off, like get back up and keep going. That actually does not feel safe to you, because again, your emotional sensitivity is so high. So what I want to offer is that if this has happened, the work is going to be the same. It's going to be the same if you're trying to get your first 1,000 followers, your first 10,000 followers, you hit 1 million. Literally, this is why, again, I always teach the 6-step process, because it's fame is new levels, new devils. And the work is always going to be about bringing your nervous system and your brain back to a place of safety. So what we would want to do is get really clear on what this traumatic thing is that happened to you. Maybe you got trolls, maybe you got haters. Another possibility, and again, I don't have that much information here on what was going on. But another thing that I see a lot is people build a large following and it's actually like not authentic to who they are. In order to create the resource of fame, all you have to do is trigger people. And so one of two things could have happened. One is that you built an audience and then you outgrew them, but you felt like you feel like you need to keep showing up as that person. Or what could also happen is that you saw, oh, I get views when I trigger people. I get followers when I trigger people, when I make the X kind of content, but it isn't actually aligned for you. It isn't actually who you authentically are. So the work here is really going to be about rewiring your brain, hacking your nervous system. It's always the same thing of coming back essentially to safety, to a place that you feel safe, like getting back into the game, expanding beyond that 350K, doing it in a way that feels really aligned, really flowy for you. Something that I also want to offer is that so many of us have been ingrained since we were children that we have to earn love, that we have to earn success, that we have to take action and do more. Now, a lot of the time, what can happen is you can create a certain level of fame from working really hard, from becoming hyper independent, from like really just like burning yourself to the ground, like burning everything. That's not the right metaphor, from just like busting your ass. But the unfortunate problem is that willpower is a limited supply. So if you're constantly relying on willpower instead of the flow, then like the flow is endless. The flow is abundant. It is always there. It is always accessible. What gets in the way of flow is again going to be trauma, is going to be fear, is going to be your energetic thermostat, it's going to be self-sabotage, all of those things. So the work here is really, and again, without knowing anything other than you have 350,000 followers and you took a break, I'm making a lot of assumptions here. But my guess is something traumatic happened. You burned out because you created an audience that you didn't actually authentically love. You mentioned mental health. It could be something completely unrelated to this, but the work is really going to be about rewiring your brain, hacking your nervous system to feel safe, expanding beyond that, but specifically doing it in a way that's actually aligned for you. So what I want you to do is get really clear on what are the ways that your brain is trying to quote unquote earn love and earn followers. And like, what if none of that? What if you created 350,000 followers in spite of working really hard? and burning yourself out, and never because of it. One of the biggest transformations that I see very consistently, because I do help, right? Like I always say, it's like new levels, new devils, but there are different shifts that happen at every level. And typically when someone has created a good amount of fame, what's getting in their way is that they've created it from a place of hyper independence. And then from that state, you cannot actually continue to grow. And you actually have to let things be easier. You have to let people come in and support you. You have to start delegating, because what you're doing as an artist, as a creative, as an influencer is you are scaling your consciousness. Scaling is a term in business where it's basically like, there's this idea, nail it, then scale it. You come up with a product, and then once it's really fucking good, then you take it to the masses. Now with fame, you are scaling your consciousness. And in order to do that, a lot of the time you need support. So whether that is, maybe you need a VA, maybe you need to hire someone, maybe you need support with your mindset, maybe you need to hire someone to help you and hold space for you to process those emotions and to reprocess that trauma. A lot of the like upper echelon clients that I work with, we are overcoming, like the work that I'm helping them with is when they have experienced being canceled, negative emotion, feeling like they just started making content for their audience, not actually for them, because their brain was taught that they needed to earn love. Now, these are all going to come back to childhood patterns a lot of the time. So if you ever felt like you had to earn love from a parent, or you felt like you had to prove yourself in any kind of way, then that's going to block you from feeling like you can then expand into more things. The other thing just to remember is that our brain's job is just to stay alive. And one of the ways that our brains does this is to preserve energy. So your brain is going to want to avoid things that you love, because your brain is going to see them as potentially scary and as potentially a threat. Does this make sense to y'all? So anything also that expends energy. So it could be something that you love. You could love, it's kind of like this idea of like, I personally, when I was a kid, I loved gymnastics. I loved going to gymnastics, but anytime I had to put on my leotard, I was like, absolutely not. Like, that is the last thing that I want to do. Now, of course, as soon as I got in, then I was excited. It's the same thing, right? Last night I went boxing for the first time in like years. And I love boxing. It's like one of my favorite things to do. And I completely quit doing it because it reminded me of my ex, because then he got really into it, because it was it was something I loved. And then he got into it. So I had this whole story about why I couldn't do it again, when at the end of the day, I love boxing. It's something I really enjoy. And one of my therapists called me out. I was just like, yeah, but like, I don't want to do it because like my ex now goes to the gym that I went to. She's like, Whitney, this is Los Angeles. Like, you can absolutely find another place to go. And of course, then realized that like, oh, literally the gym that I already go to offers boxing classes. So something that we love, our brain is going to want to avoid if there's anything past negative experience, but also anything that exerts effort. So my guess is if you created 350,000 followers, there was a part of you that loved it. However, your brain is going to want to avoid doing it now. So really clearing that up and changing the way that your brain is thinking about it is going to, instead of like, especially when your job is to scale your consciousness, it's like, I always talk about this, how your energy is like a body odor, right? Sometimes we don't smell it on ourselves, but other people do. And if it's stinky, then it's going to repel people. It's the same thing. If you go on a date with someone and they're really desperate, they're going to repel you. The opposite of that is going to be celebrity energy. Celebrity energy is the energy, that embodiment of feeling safe, receiving love for not doing anything, literally just existing in your consciousness, letting people witness who you are and receiving love for that. Most of us have been taught that that is not safe for us to do. And we've been taught that we actually have to earn it. And so the work is really about getting back to that place where it feels safe. Okay. I'm going to go to the other questions on here. Do I stream on TikTok only? No, I am currently on, in my private book club on Zoom. Okay, recently you talked about brainwashing yourself to believe you're going to pop off. I've been posting quite a bit, and I'm swinging back and forth between, wow, it's just about to happen, to damn, what if I'm stuck in 200 view jail forever, like I have been the last 10 years or so. How do you deal with this? So Erin, your brain has a lot of evidence now for why you're not going to bust past 200 view jail. Okay, and so your brain thinks that it is protective to continue reminding yourself, like your brain thinks this is necessary to remind ourselves that we might fail again. So let me ask you this, Erin. Why does your brain think that it's necessary for you to, like, why does your brain think that that's protective? And why does it think that it's important to remind you of all the times that you failed? Because your brain is just doing its job. but what you focus on expands. So if you're constantly focusing on, I'm always in low view jail, it might not work this time, right? Then that's what you're going to create more of. When you're building new beliefs, it's a little bit like a seesaw, right? So on the one hand, you've got your old beliefs and those are really strong. And at the beginning, those beliefs are going to outweigh any new beliefs. And so then once you start doing, the hypnosis, you're brainwashing yourself, you're doing all the things, it's starting to tip the scale, but you have to outweigh it. And if you do have 10 years of experience of one thing, then that's just going to take longer. That's why sometimes we see people who just start out have that like beginner's luck. It's because they don't have that baggage. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't overcome that baggage, right? I talk about this a lot. When you're building belief, there's two things you have to do. The one is like when it's similar to driving a car. You have to, when you think about driving your car, you put your foot on the gas, but you also have to take your foot off of the brake. When you have 10 years of baggage of you quote unquote failing, that's 10 years of beliefs that are fighting against you adding in these new beliefs. So if you're feeling really stuck and you're like, this is not working, it's usually because we need to not just add in the positive things with the brainwashing and if y'all are not familiar, the brainwashing it's a challenge that I created. It's a hypnosis and it's, we'll make sure to add a link in the show notes for this, but it's a 10-minute guided meditation and hypnosis that's going to teach your subconscious brain the positive thoughts to creating fame. I have so many clients get like insane testimonials for this. I just had one who she just DM'd me and she was like, I just wrote my 9th book. Okay. She's on book number 9. And she said, but I started the hypnosis for this one and this one became an Amazon bestseller. And she was like, I know that it's because I did this, right? So she could, and you could be someone also, Erin, that's like, okay, there really just needs to be one shift that just like knocks things over. But she also said, she was like, I've been really prioritizing my energy and I've been doing that for a long time around this. And she was like, this is what she was like, the hypnosis really took that to the next level. So it's just going to be a matter of doing the work, showing up for the work. But in addition to adding in the positive thoughts, in adding in those intentional thoughts, we also need to rewire what's under the subconscious. It's kind of like the whole idea of if you put makeup on a dirty face, it's like, it's just not going to land. It's just not going to look very cute. Whereas if you clean the face first and then you put makeup on, then the makeup can actually be absorbed into your skin, and like makeup is built to be absorbed into your skin in that way. So, if you're feeling like you're going back and forth, then the work is going to be about on getting under the surface and rewiring those subconscious beliefs. Okay, Annie says, I restrict myself from life's pleasures and imagine myself enjoying them, quote, when I am successful. Great awareness. This is a common theme in my mind. The idea of my future self. I always daydream and manifest and imagine amazing scenarios in my life in the future, but this is separating present me and future me so much that I feel like we are completely different people. Do you have advice on that? Yeah, really great question. And I think the fact that you have this awareness is amazing. So the first thing that we want to do is like just giving yourself compassion. So like, of course, your brain, even though you have these like, you have a really clear vision of who you are meant to be, who you're becoming, like all of that, then like that's where your brain is going, right? But your brain sees that as separation from where you currently are. So of course your brain is going to see that as scary because your brain actually likes where you are right now, because where you're at right now, it's not maybe what your soul wants, but your brain perceives it as safe because you're not currently dead. Okay. So anything that is not currently dead, your brain sees as a success. So you've had, you like your brain, like I always say this, it's like your soul wants your dreams to come true, but your brain does not. So what we need to do is first off, just give your brain compassion to that. I think also though, at the end of the day, like again, we want to get really clear on why your brain is protecting you from this and start to feel safe moving into that next thing. But at the end of the day, timelines are collapsed through action. So when you start actually taking the action, well, there are caveats to this. So when action is in alignment with who you are and who you're meant to be, and you've done the work of uncovering a lot of the beliefs like you have already, Annie, then when you take the action, then it's going to solidify in your brain that it's safe to do. So our brains have neural pathways. That's kind of like a superhighway in your brain. Our brains love habit. Our brain loves repetition. So your brain wants to do the same thing every single day, right? It's why, like, if you think about like, if every single time you made a cup of coffee, you had to completely figure it out again. Like that would be so fucking exhausting, right? So instead your brain is like, no, we're just going to like do this the way that we've always done it before. Your brain does the same thing with thoughts and with identities and with things about yourself. And if we challenge it, that's kind of the equivalent to like going down, like if you think about a pathway in the snow. If you lived on a farm and you needed to go milk the cows every morning, you would just go down the same pathway every single day because that's going to preserve energy, right? If you forge a new path through the snow every single day, that's going to exert energy, and we need to preserve our energy in case we need it later to run away from bears. So your brain does not want you to take those different actions. And yet taking those different actions is what tells your brain that it's safe to take those actions. So Annie, I think get really clear on what those actions are and like how can you start taking those actions and letting that love in and letting those yourself have those things while simultaneously showing your brain and rewiring your brain into seeing that it is safe for you to receive and safe for you to. So really just bringing your brain's attention to the times that things are working and that things are going well. So all this to say, like, this is why I always, focus so much on celebrations, is that what you focus on, you will create more of. So if you can focus on the ways that it is safe for you to create love or to receive love, it is safe for you to step into these new timelines while currently doing it, then that's going to make it easier to do it. And I also think, like, I was telling my clients this on the retreat of like, if you imagine that future version of yourself and start thinking about not only what are they doing, but how are they thinking, right? What are they thinking about? What are they not thinking about? What are they worried about? What are they not worried about? What problems are they solving? And if you start thinking in that way, then the actions themselves are going to come a lot more naturally, right? You might stop thinking about certain haters in your life, or you might start, and that's going to make it easier to receive in certain ways. Let me know if that makes sense. Okay. Is there work other than the hypnosis that we should be doing to remove the negative reinforcement and beliefs in addition to adding the positive ones? Currently doing the hypnosis about 7 days in and starting to feel a change. Amazing. So yeah, so Dylan, I do offer several, the work is going to be about, again, excavating those thoughts and figuring out what those subconscious blocks are. And a lot of the times these are going to be things that, like, here's the thing. Trying to see what's in your brain and what's blocking you is kind of like trying to read the contents of a jar when you're inside of the jar. So that's why, like, I personally, I'm always going to have a life coach, because I always want someone who is looking at my brain and telling me, hey, these are the thoughts. Because when you're outside of someone's brain and you have the training to do this, then it's like, it's just going to fast track it, right? Like, and that's why, like, me and some of my friends, I've created results significantly faster than them. I've also invested in coaching significantly more because I will just always, and I also was raised with a significant amount of brainwashing from religion. And so I just always want I want to have an outside perspective on my brain so that I can make results faster. And that's also just in terms of like collapsing the timeline. That really is like, and obviously this is self-serving because I am a coach, but like that actually, I do believe is the hack to moving results faster and why I will always pay. I'm not going to admit how much I just paid my life coach at this current moment because it's something that I'm still having a lot of thoughts about the amount of, but it is more than 6 figures. So, but that's the kind of person that I want to be. And I feel like for me to be in integrity with selling life coaching, like I want to be an example of that. So that's a pitch on hiring a coach, right? So whether it's me, whether it's another coach, but I also do offer a course to teach you the steps to do it yourself, which will get you like very far. I have a lot of clients. I just did a podcast episode with one of my clients who's actually one of my favorite creators. Her name's Courtney Johnson. And I didn't realize that she was a client of mine until she blew up on TikTok. And I just was like, oh my God, I love this post. And she's like, oh, I actually started my content because I took this course of yours. And now she's like verified. She just posted this thing. She's making like 40K a month. Like she's doing amazing. And it's a $300 course. So that's called the Celebrity Energy Circuit. And that's going to be, we can also link that in the show notes. But if you just want to go to celebrityenergycircuit.com, that's where that is. Or you can work with me for 6 months and we do a goal hitting guarantee, which basically how that program works. It's called the Self-Made Celebrity. And you come in You learn all of the steps to rewiring your brain, and then you learn how to set a goal. And we guarantee that you will hit that goal within the 6 months of us working together, or we'll keep working with you until you do. So that's going to be my thoughts if you want to do this even more. Hi, Ruthie. Okay. My biggest block stems from my Nigerian upbringing, which taught me that financial freedom isn't available to women. Ruthie, I feel you. I know it's probably not the same in Nigeria, but I was raised Mormon. We're also taught the women can't make money. So I feel you. I also have an old fear of being unlovable. I've done work around these beliefs and now have a great relationship with my family, friends, and loving partner who sees me as a rock star, but my relationship with money still feels blocked. Okay, I love this. I'm so excited to talk about this. I'm an agency-signed fitness model and empowerment influencer, but still financially dependent on my ex-husband because I can't generate income consistently despite having several big campaigns and even trying to get a quote-unquote normal job. Any advice on how to break through this block? I know that it manifests as procrastination, lack of inspiration, and struggle to build an engaging following. Okay, Ruthie, I'm so excited that you asked this because this is something that I like just from personal experience. I just went through a divorce and I had this moment. And I'm sharing this to show you what's possible. Okay. So I had this moment where I was flying first class to New York City, running my business and signing my divorce papers. And I made a settlement that I would have been entitled to money and decided not to take it because it was not worth going to court and it was not worth the headache. And it was this moment again, because I was just like flying first class. I'm the 4th generation of women in my family to get divorced and to leave an unhealthy marriage. But I'm the first to be completely financially independent. And that is for me. I also like sometimes people are like, oh, but your parents supported you. They let you get a degree in theater. And I do think like they did believe and support me in that way. But also, I don't think anyone in my life ever would have thought that I could be a person who makes money because I'm a woman. So all of this is to say, you're in the right spot. And I'm very excited to talk about this. I want to offer, Ruthie, that your ability to receive money is a direct reflection of how valuable you believe that you are. It is not a reflection of how valuable you actually are, because obviously there is no amount of money that would be enough to quantify how valuable you are. But it is going to be a reflection of how valuable you believe that you are. So I think what we want to do is looking at your brain believes that you can receive money if it's from a man, if it's from an ex-husband, if it's someone who clearly, without knowing any of the circumstances, if they're your ex, they're not someone that you want to continue having a relationship with. So why, I'm curious, Ruthie, why would it feel like your brain thinks that it is safe for you to receive love in that way, to receive value, that you're valuable in that way? But there's some identity block that doesn't feel safe or doesn't feel like you are inherently valuable enough to receive money for who you are. The amazing thing about being an influencer, being a fitness model is it's like twofold, because on the one hand, your job is literally just to exist and to be witnessed and to receive money for that. So I'm curious, Ruthie, what part of you does not believe that that is enough and that that is inherently valuable? Because in influencing, in modeling, in entertainment, there is fuck you money available to be made. And the difference between the people who make that money and the people who don't is how much they believe that they are worthy of receiving it without earning it or doing it. So I don't know if you have other thoughts if you want to ask. That's where my intuition is stopping me right now. But if you have other questions, I can drop them in here. But essentially the work is going to be working to believe that you are inherently, through your existence, valuable enough and giving enough value that you are compensated for the work that you're doing. And I love that you notice that when you're not believing that, it leads to procrastination, lack of inspiration, struggling to build an engaging following. But I think the work is going to be about stepping into that identity of the person who is the fitness influencer, or who is the influencer. I forget if you said fitness influencer. I think you said fitness model and influencer. Who is the version? Who is the fitness model and the empowerment influencer who is making a fuck ton of money. And we're talking like, again, this is fuck you money that's available in these industries. So what's the difference between you and that version? And close the gap. And I think that the fact that you've already created these results, you mentioned you've healed your relationship with, with your friends, with your family. That's fucking amazing. That's really fucking hard. And what if this last piece is just going to be with the money as well? Okay, Christine says, I used to create content about personal growth, but I haven't created any content. At first, I felt like I wasn't in the mood, booty call symptoms, so I was trying to push through, but I'm realizing, whoops, it's because I don't know what type of content to create. I don't really want to focus on personal growth, but I don't have a niche I'm interested in. And I think my brain feels like, well, if you don't have a niche or something you can bring to the table, no one's going to just watch your videos. So here's the thing, Christine, and I think this kind of actually goes back similar to with Ruthie, is like, what if you existing is inherently valuable? In you existing and letting people witness that is when you will make a fuck ton of money. So what I want to offer, Christine, is what if you are the niche, and what if like you are the celebrity and everyone just wants to know your thoughts and your opinions about everything? And how would that be different than the way that you're looking at this now? So that's what I want to start with. And let me know if you have additional thoughts. Make sense? And like also just looking at like, Christine, like who are some of your favorite people to like witness? Like it was funny. I was saying this on my retreat. There's this influencer. Her name's JC Marie Smith, and she's so cute. And whenever I'm bored or lonely, I just turn on her stuff and I feel like she's my friend. That is her value, is just existing and like doing that on camera is like, that creates this parasocial relationship. Yeah, she says, I resonated. It's just hard for my brain to believe it. Yeah. So look at who are the influencers or creators that provide value just by them existing. And like, what if that's possible for you too? Something that could also be helpful, Christine, is looking at like who you are now. Even like you've created insane results, right? You got that like huge raise. What would someone 6 months ago, or what would someone find valuable about your current life? What insight do you have or opinions or whatever that you didn't have even just 6 months ago? And start creating for that kind of person. It's really like, and I know there's a question on here about, which I feel like this might be Chloe. Is this you, Chloe? Because it says Zoom user. And also, I think we've talked about this, being a singer, having the block being seen on camera there's like, I do want to say it's like, there's like 3% a skill of being able to do this on camera. And essentially it's about having this feedback loop. There is that skill of being able to talk as if you were speaking to someone who is listening and engaging. But again, that's like 3%. That's okay, Chloe, no worries. So I'm going to bump this one down and then we'll come back up to Annie's question. But Chloe says, I'm doing the celebrity energy circuit and it's helped me with feeling safe, being seen, removing the subconscious blocks, but I'm struggling with being seen on camera. I'm a singer and I've been able to create videos that have gotten over 10K views from just talking, but I struggle to create it just singing and sharing my voice. So yeah, so Chloe, what feels dangerous about opening your voice? What feels dangerous about people perceiving this? I made a post about this yesterday, but I did this workout class yesterday online. And then anyway, it was like a dance cardio class, and doing it, I have a BFA in musical theater. And so I took 5 years of academic ballet, tap, and jazz. And so even though I'm not the best dancer, I do technically know what it takes to be proficient and what it doesn't. And I was watching this girl who has thousands and thousands, like hundreds of thousands of followers. And I was like, oh, she's not a dancer at all. She's like doing things that like you would learn in like, if you took a dance class for 3 weeks, you would know not to do those things. The difference though, is that she doesn't have the awareness to know that she's doing it quote unquote wrong. So she's just showing up. It's like, and this is what like really gets in the way of like when my guess for you, Chloe, is like, there could be some fears here with like, the places that you're not quote unquote proficient, or like I'm thinking of like my friends who are like incredible dancers. They would never put themselves online making dance, like exercise videos, because they know that people would then perceive them and watch them, first off, just trying something new, putting themselves out there. That in and of itself is really vulnerable, but also they could be like, oh, I have to execute this perfectly because my dance teacher could see this, my family could see this. Like, it's like when you have a level of proficiency, you're going to be less inclined to put yourself out there because you know the criticism that you could receive. Whereas if you're someone who like literally doesn't even know what the fuck you're doing, you're going to be a lot more like likely to put yourself out there. And that's why we see people who are like not very self-aware and not always the most talented having that beginner's luck, is because they literally they're not even aware that they're doing it incorrectly. So I'm curious if that's coming up for you, Chloe. Let me know, or if there's something specific, because if you mentioned that you're like, that there's a difference between talking videos versus singing, my guess is it could be something related to your talent. Something else that I have seen is like feeling like you have to create, or you have to like earn through your talent. Like, for example, I think for me, it took a long time to see myself as a content creator as being valuable, because I was taught, no, you need talent, you need to sing, you need to dance, you need to act, you need to whatever. So that felt like it needed to be like on this pedestal, instead of like just realizing that it is valuable to exist and to be perceived just for existing. And so if your brain is putting your singing on a pedestal, then it's going to close down energetically. Okay. Annie says, I think the confusing part is the things I would be thinking about are things that don't exist for me yet. For example, creating my stage design for a world tour. I have designed some as a form of manifesting, but it's with the mindset for in the future, which is making it hard to build the bridge between the present and the future. Yeah. So Annie, like, I don't remember if you're in my mentorship or not, but that's like one of the biggest struggles that artists, creatives, and influencers is like literally, this used to be the first video. We just bumped it later in the modules, but Trap 101 is setting these la la land goals. So your brain would rather you focus on goals that are on your world tour instead of what the next step is. So that's actually a way that your brain is keeping you small, is that it's these la la land goals. So what I would say is, Annie, like, yes, like always do those things, right? Create that, but that's a way of your brain keeping you small and keeping you stuck, is because your brain would rather you think about, it's like for me, for years, I would focus on like, I know I'm going to be on Good Morning America. I know I'm going to be on Jimmy Fallon, right? And so I would focus on those things, but that was actually a way of keeping me out of action, of taking the next step. So something that I would look at is like, Annie, the version of you who is going on a world tour, what is different about that person? Not about the actions that they're taking, not about how they're spending their day, although those things are going to be influenced. But what our brains are naturally always going to do is to look at, what actions do I take? And the truth is, your life is not created by the actions you take. It's created by who you are being, because who you are being, your identity, the energy that you're giving off, the thoughts you're thinking, and the feelings that you're feeling, that's what people actually respond to. And that's what people resonate with. So people who have been like hitting their pavement and they're like, I'm doing this, I've been doing this for years, right? Like Erin was saying, I've got 10 years of experience of it not working. The actions themselves are not what creates the result. It's who you are being when you're taking those actions. With all y'all, there are not that many steps that you can actually take to create fame. You have a product, your talent, your consciousness, whatever, you share the product. That's literally it. Whether it's get in front of a talent agent, get in front of an audience, get in front of an open mic night, get online. It's literally create your art, share your art. Create your art, share your art. So the difference, it's not like, and people always come to me, they're like, but what actions do I take? And I'm like, no. You essentially, the action, there's like not even that many actions that you can even be taking. It's like, you can send a cold email, you can hire a lawyer. Like, I don't even fucking know, but that's not what actually makes it. It's even like, it's been super interesting to be at the point that I'm at now, where I'm starting to have a lot of opportunities come to me where it's like people that see my talent, see the value, and they're like, I want to amplify that. And there was a long time that I was chasing those gatekeepers and chasing those opportunities. And it wasn't until I just decided to start being the person who has already had those opportunities in terms of my identity, stepping into that identity ahead of time, that's when the results started to change. And that's when the gatekeepers started coming to me. So look at Annie. What is the difference between what that version of you who's on a world tour, what are they thinking about every day, about themselves, about their relationship, about their work? How are they advocating for themselves? How are they putting themselves out there? And then look at that version of you. What would they do in this current timeline that you're at right now to get just to the next step, right? Because like if you think about, I say this all the time, but it's like Meryl Streep was Meryl Streep before she was Meryl Streep, right? It's not going to be like focusing on the actions of what you're going to do when you're at a superstar level. That is just keeping you in inaction. So good. I'm glad you brought that because that is a big trick that we have. Okay, Maureen. Sorry, I was not done typing. Okay, perfect, because I think I accidentally skipped your comment. Anyway, I'm still in celebration buffering. I believe it is an upper limit problem. However, a tragic event has happened in my household, triggering with the dramatic emotions, deep sadness and grief. Nothing could have prevented this. I'm autistic and this feels like an emotional burnout. My brain is scattered at the moment and bringing up old fears and beliefs. My body is saying that something is wrong, but everything is too loud to isolate. I'm not even able to go to work today. I'm not sure what I need to ask here, if this is emotional processing thing, celebration, or combination. Okay, so Maureen, I'm really sorry that that happened. Here's what I want to offer, is that when you have a neurodivergency or really anything about you that makes you quote unquote different from most people, that is going to be your superpower. And it means that you need to respond in the way that is the most loving for you in that moment. So my guess is, Maureen, that your brain is wanting to jump to like, oh, I should be working through this faster. I need to take action. I need to get back to these things. But what I'm also hearing is that something really traumatic happened that actually is warranting the exact response that you are having. And the only thing that I'm hearing is just thinking, I'm hitting an upper limit and I need to bust through this. If you knew for a fact, Maureen, that you are going to bust through this upper limit and you are going to create the results that you want, then how would you show up to this traumatic thing happening? My guess is you would just give yourself the space to really process through these emotions. The way that you're sharing this, I feel like this makes me think that we've worked together. So I don't know if you're in the circuit or in the mentorship, but I think really going through and using those tools, right, of processing the emotions for what's happening right now that was really triggering. And I just want to offer that the work of being an artist is like 10% making and sharing your art, and 90% it's like healing and like looking at yourself and looking at your shit and working through it. Because I just saw this interview someone shared of Lady Gaga. And she just, she was saying, she's like, the only thing you really have is your perspective. The way I say it is like, the only thing we really have is our opinions as an artist. And those opinions are formed when we sit and we process what's coming up for you. So Maureen, I just want to offer that without knowing the context, like, and I'm not trying to say this bad thing had to happen to you or needed to happen or anything toxic like that, but what if it's an opportunity here for you to gain a new perspective? And the fastest way is just going to be to sit with this and to process it and give yourself as much space as you need. And what if turning that and alchemizing this pain is what's going to then give you the space to get through on the other side? So that's going to be my thoughts on here. I'm very sorry about whatever you're experiencing and sending you a lot of love. Okay. How that is scrolling on social media in comparison for this flow state. So I think it totally just depends. I think it's like, I don't know that there's like a always this or always that, because for me, there are times that I'm scrolling and I'm like, I'm inspired and I feel, and I get content ideas. But as soon as you start to move into compare and despair, or you notice that you're just buffering your emotions away, you're distracting yourself, that's going to be when it's like time to pull back. Right. And I think if you can think of yourself just like almost like a parent of yourself, where it's like your job is to take care of your inner self and to just like witness and be like, hey, this is starting to make me feel sad. Let's take a break. Let's get off. I love doing a cleanse. That's something that I share with my clients that we're doing the Brainwashing challenge this month, is to unfollow people that don't inspire you, unfollow people from your past, unfollow, whatever it is. And I want your feed to feel like it's curated for you and it's almost like a Pinterest board, not just like if you notice that your algorithm is like constantly putting you in a state of fight or flight, then changing up, like clicking on those videos and saying, do not show me this kind of content, like, right? Or unfollowing people on Instagram, whatever that is. So again, I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing, but like, and I even remember like, it was literally on my birthday this year that I got all of these haters. I got all of these trolls in this video. And I think just because it was my birthday and I was like, it's my fucking birthday. I am at Disneyland with my 2-year-old. I'm having so much fun. I loved the trolls. I was just like, this is so funny. Like I was just watching their brain and I was like responding back to some of them and like whatever. And then there's other times that it's like one comment will like destroy me, right? And so it really, again, like as an artist, as a creative, as an influencer, we're not robots, right? So I think it really just comes down to like, how are you doing on that day? What do you actually need? And like being almost like a stage mom to yourself of like, oh, hey, like Annie's getting a little upset by this. Let's go ahead and pull back. And having that relationship with yourself that you can follow yourself when you have that idea. I also resonate with the idea of receiving money just for existing. When I asked myself who I would have to be, what came up is that I need to be interesting enough, beautiful enough, and likable. Ruthie, good awareness. It's not true, but I'm glad you noticed this. I feel resistance in those areas, especially around being likable enough. Effective growing up in a minority. Any tips on changing these beliefs and how to turn up my magnetism on camera? I have much better luck in person. So Ruthie, of course you're going to have much better luck in person because in person it feels safe. If someone started yelling at you, you could move. Whereas if someone starts like sending you hate online, it feels very violating, right? And I think there are boundaries around that, whatever. I used to just block people for a while. I honestly probably would benefit from doing that again. But what I want to offer is that what we just said, right, is that like receiving money just from existing. And then what comes up is do more, be more pretty, be more likable, be more interesting, right? So just notice. And something that I think could be helpful, Ruthie, is like, and again, it makes so much sense that you have these thoughts, that your brain is telling you this. And what if that's not true? So like, again, I want you to think of who are your favorite influencers and like, why do you connect with them? Probably it's just because they feel like they are showing up and just being willing to be perceived for where they're actually at. I'm curious, something also that could be helpful for you, Ruthie, is just thinking back to like, who is the kind of influencer that you, or I'm sorry, who is the kind of celebrity that you used to need to look up to? Like think about the Ruthie who was growing up a minority, who was taught that they, weren't worthy of X, Y, and Z. And what do you need to prove to that person? Probably that they don't need to do anything different and that they're worthy of being seen. And once you can start shifting to just being like, all I need to do, like there's this great quote. I was part of Gina Davis's film festival, and her whole mission is on inclusion and representation in Hollywood. And she's been a huge inspiration to me. And one of the things that the year that I like won her festival, the saying was you have to see it to be it. Meaning that when we have representation in entertainment, that's when we see new possibilities for ourselves. And so what if, Ruthie, what if you get to be someone who gets to be, I believe, like you said, you're from Nigeria. Did I make that up? Like, what if you get to be the pioneer of that? What if you get to change the course of history by you just being the person that other people get to look at and say, oh, maybe I could be like that too. Maybe I could be financially independent. Maybe I could be a model. Maybe I could be a minority and have all these things. And really just selling your brain on why that's so important can help with the fear around it. And then also, working through those fears of showing up, rewiring your brain so that it doesn't feel as threatening. And so that you have that relationship with yourself so that you know that you're always taken care of. I am losing my voice, so give me a second. Okay. Chloe says that's exactly what it is. It's like I feel scared of feeling completely vulnerable because I know all the specifics of what I should or shouldn't be doing. I definitely also relate to the feeling of putting my singing on a pedestal. Yeah, and the other thing, Chloe, specifically your voice, your throat chakra is very related to fear and trauma. So for example, when my dad died, I completely lost my singing voice. Like nothing would come out. And I also would say, again, I went to college, when I was in college, That was when I really struggled with depression, with suicidal ideation, because I was in a college where they told me that I was bad for being bisexual and that I was not going to go to heaven because I'm bisexual. And so I suppressed that, and I married a man, and I like just was really trying to hide who I was, because it literally was not safe. It actually was not safe for me to be seen for who I was. And that's what I want to offer is probably true for a lot of you. Okay. And so while I was in college and that's the state that I was in, it didn't matter that I was in 2 voice lessons a week. My voice was just like, no, we're not going to be free. We're not going to let ourselves out. So then my dad died, and it was just like, and my dad was my biggest cheerleader. And so when he died, it was like, now we are dead too. And it wasn't until I started to do that work of healing and healing the relationship with myself that now, well, I don't know about right now because of everything I've been going through the last year with my divorce, but I feel like there was definitely a time that then as soon as I started singing again, once it was like my voice, all of a sudden I could sing way higher and like I was in musical theater, right? So like the belting, the mix, like the high notes, like all of that, they all came back so much easier without doing any technique classes. It was purely just the fact that my voice felt free and felt safe again because I felt safe again. I felt safe being perceived. So I've coached so many people. Something that actually comes up often is that for my singers, like I've worked with people who it's like they're amazing singing when they're in the shower or whatever. And then as soon as they get to an audition, that's when it closes off. I've also seen a lot of my actors where they get on set and all of a sudden they can't remember their lines, right? That's because something from the past in your subconscious brain is telling you this is not safe for us to like explore and to express and to be ourselves. So that's why it's like so important to continue just like clearing up all those stories. Christine says, I wanted to do my vlogs in a reality show style and I recorded it, but it's sitting in CapCut. Christine, I just got full body chills. No, this is 100% what you need to be doing. I wish my brain would just let me be. I definitely think I had beginner's luck when I first started TikTok because I didn't have so much awareness. Christine, no, this is what you're doing. You are 100% doing that. That is such a good idea. And how about this? How about we do this, Christine? I also have some drafts that are way too fucking vulnerable for me to share. I'll share one if you share one. How about that? I'll share one and I hope that you do too. But the fact that you're just sitting on it, I'm like, that's why you're feeling stuck right now, because your brain, your intuition knows that that is the thing that's going to pop off. It might take a couple tries, but that's 100% the thing that's going to work. And so what your brain is doing, your brain knows that that's going to bring visibility and going to bring vulnerability. And so your brain is afraid of that. And so then your brain is just like, let's just not do anything. Let's just stay stuck. And you're probably making content. If you are making content, it's probably not as good as it normally could be. So then you're kind of like downplaying the algorithm and telling the algorithm, I'm not really going to show up. And so then the algorithm is not going to want to pop off your next idea. We got to fix this. We got to fix this. Okay. Which I know you can. I know you will. Okay. Chloe says, I think I also get stuck in comparing myself and feeling like my voice is never going to be good enough, even though I know I'm talented. Yeah, that's just your brain. Your brain doesn't want you to believe that you're good enough. Why not? Because then you would have to put yourself out there. Does that make sense? Side note, do you script out your content on Instagram or TikTok or just write some quick notes to doc? Neither. I don't think one single thought and then I have an idea and I'm like, boom. That being said, that's not sustainable. For me, I truly though, like when I'm working with my clients, I'm like, until you get past, I mean, you can pick the number, Christine. I don't remember what you're at, but like for me, for people who are doing at least what I'm doing in terms of business, I'm like, you need to, like, you can just trust your inspiration to 100K, like easily. I'm just now getting to the place that I'm like, I don't like this for my lifestyle. And so now I'm like batching my content. So y'all will see, you've probably seen some of it has come out. It's like shot in studio. But those are scripted, but yeah, I don't, but I was trained as an improviser. But I think it like ultimately is just a testament to like when you're in the flow state, when you're in your celebrity energy, you don't need any preparation. You don't need to script it. But you can, if that's what works for you. One of my best friends, she has that I always fucking talk about. I'm like, we need to play a game. And those of y'all who know, you can just drop her name in the comments because you know that I'm gonna fucking say Shane Elise. It's like we needed to take a shot every time I bring her up. But she has a degree in broadcast journalism, and so when I have been coaching her on her content, I'm like, no, you just need to tap into your intuition. And she's like, no, I need to use my teleprompter. And like that is actually where her flow state lives. So again, this is not here to judge if that actually is what works for you, but I don't think I think most people will use that to get in their way from actually starting. Okay. Aaron says creating and share is the easy part. It's the mind fuck of going, I'm already famous in your head and actually feeling that consistently when the real world results are telling you otherwise. Yeah, 100%. It's so brave to believe that about yourself. And it's so vulnerable to believe that about yourself, especially what, like you mentioned, you've had years of not having that. And you're like, no, I have 10 years of results proving otherwise. Right. So yeah, that is the most like vulnerable part, but that's also why it's so valuable. And I believe that that's why celebrities are compensated so highly, is because they're willing to bet on that when there is no evidence that they can be that person, right? Okay. How is it I didn't realize we're like out of time. That makes sense though. My energy always dips off at an hour. Okay. How is it like I am imagine only being famous with huge fame and being known by everyone, or being super alone or super only unseen? What I have experienced. Why is it always bipolar, like having this relation with being famous and with celebrity energy in general? Yeah, so Julia, your brain actually doesn't. So this is like what I was talking about with the fears of, or with the La La Land goals, is that your brain is going to have like anytime it has these like oscillating, that's just your brain trying to keep you safe. Because if your brain constantly focuses on like it's never going to work or it's going to like work and pop off immediately, then you're just going to stay stuck. So nothing has gone wrong. Your brain is just doing its job. And the work is to come back. And this is what I teach my clients how to do, is to set a goal that's actually going to move you forward, is because most people don't. Most like our brains are going to use, like it's going to pull out any tool in the toolbox to keep you stuck, to keep you safe. So when you have creativity, anything that is your biggest strength, your brain will use as your biggest weakness. So you are a highly creative person. So your brain is going to want to use creativity against you. So it's going to come up with really creative ways of keeping you stuck. So that's why it's coming up with these like La La Land goals and then being like, or I'm a failure. So that's just your brain doing its thing. All right. One last question. Aaron or Afton, sorry, says, how can we tell if our content is of high caliber? I know I'm a magnetic person, but how can I hold the confidence in my content being worthy? I want to feel confident in all I create, which I feel when I make it, but I'm scared of judgment from my surrounding community. Will I ever fully move past this block? How do you move past that? So Afton, my guess is you could be new here. If not, like that's what we're here doing. So you're in the perfect place. But essentially what I just want to say is that you actually just, to get started, you have to just decide that it's high caliber and show up as if it is, and then rinse and repeat until it actually is. Okay. So good enough is a decision. You have to decide that you're a pro before you're actually a pro. I was telling my clients this today in my mentorship program or this week, I mean, in my mentorship program, where there are some jobs, right? Being a dentist, being a doctor, that you actually do need advanced certification for. But for the most part, I feel like a lot of grad programs are actually a scam, because really people just go because they want to feel at the end of it that they are valid in being a real artist. Okay. So what if instead of doing that, you actually can just decide that you are, and decide that it's good enough? And often, of course, your brain is going to want to, like your brain is just going to want to stop you from creating the results that you want. And so the ways that it's going to do that is by telling you that it's not good enough. So of course, though, your brain doesn't want you to be perceived by massive amounts of people because your brain feels like it's threatening. Afton, I feel like I have a 1 hour deep dive training on this. It's in the link in my bio, and we'll also share it in the show notes. But it's called the FAME formula. So I would highly, highly recommend that you check that out. All right, my friends, my voice is gone. So Maddie says so real on grad school. Oh God, I forgot you're on here. Sorry that I just said that. But oh yeah, you are new. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so you're in the perfect place. I'm so glad that you're here, Afton. This is absolutely something that we're gonna unblock. So thank you for being here, y'all. I am so grateful y'all are here, and I will talk to you soon. Have an amazing day. Bye.
And that's a wrap on another episode of How to Be Famous. If you found today's episode to be helpful, then make sure to subscribe and leave me a review or tag me on Instagram at Whitney Euland. Your feedback helps me to continue making empowering content. And if you're ready to be the next big thing and you want to take this work even deeper and work with me directly to become a self-made celebrity, then head to the link in the show notes where you can learn how to coach with me directly. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or gossip, then feel free to slide into my DMs. They are always open. I'm at Whitney Euland on TikTok and Instagram. I always love hearing your stories, celebrations, and wins. And remember, this is not about fame for fame's sake. It's about making a positive impact, bringing your dreams to life, and inspiring people along the way. Stay inspired, stay ambitious, and most importantly, stay true to your authentic self. Until next time, I'm Whitney Euland, and this is How to Be Famous with Whitney Euland.